BeamNG.drive comes with a decent variety of real-world inspired yet fictional cars to satisfy motorheads of all sorts. When it comes to raw performance, however, nothing else in the game comes remotely close to the supercar-inspired Civetta Scintilla lineup of cars. Hello everybody, welcome to Alder Drag Strip, where today we pay tribute to the king. As far as drag cars go in the game BeamNG, without resorting to the use of game mods, nothing compares to the Civetta Scintilla. It's the lightest, most powerful, and technologically advanced car in the entire game by far. Today, starting with the most basic of base models and moving up, I'll be running 9 of the Scintilla's default factory models, plus one of my own, and we'll find out how they compare in the only way that really matters on this channel, and that's against the clock on the quarter mile. If you like this stuff, hit that thumbs up. If you're into this sort of thing, subscribe to the channel for more and hit the bell for notifications. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave those down below. This is the Scintilla GT. In the entire lineup of Civetta Scintillas, this is the most basic as basic gets, if there's anything basic about a Scintilla. Under the hood is a 5-liter V10 that claims 606 brake horsepower. Gears are shifted to a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. The whole car weighs 3,329 pounds. It claims a 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds, a 0 to 100 in 6 seconds, and a top speed of 209 miles per hour. Handling is helped with an adaptive suspension, and it gets the power down through a set of 20-inch rims with a thin band of rubber. Well, all that sounds wonderful. Let's see how it runs down the strip. The Scintilla GT runs a 9.827 at 139 miles per hour. Not bad for a base model, I gotta say. If that ends up the slowest of the group, that's awful impressive. Moving our way up through the lineup, for a few dollars more, you get a little bit more. This is a Scintilla GTS. Rear wheel driven, under the hood is a 5-liter V10 equipped with a sport intake that makes 656 brake horsepower. Gears are shifted again through a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. The car weighs in at 3,329 pounds, claims a 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds, and a 0 to 105.8. Top speed, 211 miles per hour, which is 2 miles per hour faster than the GT. Again, how that equates to a quarter mile, we'll find out in just a moment. The nice thing about the base models, at least on the street tires, is burnouts are rather easy. The Scintilla GTS runs a 9.630 at 142 miles per hour. That's almost 0.2 of a second and better than 3 miles an hour faster than the GT model. For a few dollars more, if the thought of high horsepowered rear-wheel driven vehicles scares you, there's an all-wheel drive version. This is the Scintilla GTX. Under the hood is the same 5-liter V10 with sport intake as the GTS that makes the same 656 brake horsepower. Gears are still shifted to a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. The all-wheel drive increases the weight to 3,439 pounds. It claims a 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds, a 0 to 105.1, and the same top speed as the GTS at 211 miles per hour. Well, I would think the all-wheel drive is probably an advantage on most surfaces. On the drag strip, I think the extra weight might actually work against the GTX here. We'll see. GTX runs at 9.739 at 149 miles per hour. That's still a little bit quicker than the GT, but kind of like I thought, it's about a tenth slower than the GTS. Given that it makes the same power as the GTS, that extra 110 pounds is worth about a tenth of a second and 2 miles an hour in a quarter mile. So you like the design and styling of the Scintilla, but you don't feel you stand out quite enough. For you, this is the Velocita. Besides its looks, the Velocita is also a little bit of a step up in performance from the other cars. Sporting the same 5-liter V10 as the other models, the Velocita comes with a stock block and stock twin turbos, making 794 brake horsepower, which combined with its 3,373 pounds, gives it a 0 to 60 at 3.4 seconds, a 0 to 100 in 5.7, and a top speed of 239 miles per hour. You also get a race interior and 20 by 11 inch Encioni racing rims. Let's find out what the Velocita's got for the quarter mile. A 907 at 153.5 miles per hour. That's a pretty decent step up. That'll show you what an extra 130 horsepower or so will do. Next up is for all you racers out there who can't make up your mind what type of racing you actually do. This is the GT Corsa. Fitted with a Sport Block 5-liter naturally aspirated V10, it's fitted with a sport intake and performance exhaust as well as sport ECU. It makes 710 brake horsepower and gears are still shifted through a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Total weight is 3,296 pounds. It claims a 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds, a 0 to 100 in 5.7 seconds, and a top speed of 221 miles per hour. The GTS Corsa runs at 932 at 148 miles per hour. Our next car comes right off of the set of the latest shitty superhero movie. This is the Dark Owl. Besides its obvious standout body feature styling, under the hood is also a little bit different. While the standard engine for the Civetta Scintillas is a 5-liter V10, the Dark Owl sports a 5.5-liter V8. With a Stage 3 performance block, racing oil pan, adjustable ECU, and Stage 1 supercharger, the Dark Owl makes 732 brake horsepower. Gears are shifted to a 6-speed race sequential transmission, and the whole car weighs in at 3,461 pounds. It claims a 0 to 60 of 3.6 seconds and a 0 to 100 of 6.2 with a top speed of 188 miles per hour. So let's see if it's as fast as it likes to think it looks. The Dark Owl runs a 9.648 at 140 miles per hour, which, if you ask me, is not nearly as fast as it looks like it should be. Much like most superhero movies of late, that was a bit of a disappointment. Our next version of the Scintilla, although quite at home running in point-to-point timed events, is much more suited for mountain roads and hairpins. This is the amateur rally car. All-wheel drive, under the hood is a racing block 5-liter naturally aspirated V10 with racing exhaust, intake, adjustable racing ECU, and a 6-speed sequential transmission. Power is transferred to the ground through 19 by 11 inch rally tires. If I had to guess, I'd say it makes a lot more grip than it's going to need here today on a prep surface. See what a rally car can do in a quarter mile. The amateur rally car runs 10 seconds flat with a 1 at 141 miles per hour. It's pretty much like I thought. It got a lot more grip than it normally would on just about any other surface, and that just bogged it right down. Still, not too bad, I guess. If you're feeling racy but you're not quite into the rally thing, or even drag racing for that matter, here's the racing version of this Scintilla. This is rear wheel driven only. Under the hood is again a naturally aspirated 5-liter V10 and, well, all the race parts you can imagine, including a 6-speed race sequential transmission. It makes 738 brake horsepower and it all weighs 2,833 pounds, making it the lightest of the cars so far. Claims a 0 to 60 at 2.9 seconds and a 0 to 105.2 with a top speed of 208 miles per hour. Power's put to the ground through a set of 19 by 12 inch tires with a little bit of rubber around the outside. Much like the amateur rally version, I suspect that the prep surface is going to provide a little bit more grip than this thing is built for, and we may see it bogging down a little bit off the line. all-out racing Scintilla runs a 9.790 at 149 miles per hour. Like I suspected, it struggles off the line a little bit. Okay, moving on to something that's actually supposedly built for this sort of thing. This is what the BeamNG devs give us as a default drag version of the Scintilla. Under the hood is a 5-liter V10 with stage 3 variable boost turbochargers and adjustable nitrous flow and all the racing parts you can imagine. Gears are shifted through a 6-speed racing sequential transmission, and it all makes 1,871 brake horsepower, weighing 2,822 pounds. It claims a 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds, 0 to 104.5 with a top speed of 230 miles per hour. Getting the power to the ground on a set of 18 by 12 inch rims are these 13.5 inch drag radials. And trust me, they'll provide more than enough grip for what we have here. The drag Scintilla runs a 7.351 at 202 miles per hour, and I have to think maybe the devs have detuned this some just to give the other cars a chance, because as we know, there's a lot more in it than that. Our final Scintilla of the night is the fastest unmodded drag car on this entire channel. Much the same as the default drag car under the hood, it sports a 5-liter V10, stage 3 variable boost twin turbos, adjustable nitrous, with gears shifted to a 6-speed race sequential transmission. This version, however, makes 2,418 brake horsepower, and with the removal of the roll cage and the selection of some lighter parts, weighs in the lightest of the bunch at 2,691 pounds. Well, the 26 by 8 drag slicks on the rear might look a little bit funny in comparison to the radials of the default version. Traction with this Scintilla is not an issue. Without the addition of wheelie bars, it's really a battle just to keep the front end down as it is. The last time I had this out, I run down the quickest 15 unmodded cars on the channel, and unsurprisingly, this was the quickest after a 6.424 second, 229 mile per hour pass. Besides a paint job, I have tuned it up a little bit from there, but making all the horsepower I can possibly make without the addition of mods, and already having as much traction as I can handle, I'm not sure how much more is in there. For those who want to give this a try, you can find the config file in the community section right here on the site. So, for the last pass of the night, here's my version of the quickest and fastest Scintilla I could make. The unmodded Civetta Scintilla runs a 6.332 at 232 miles per hour, making its best run to date and further distancing itself from pretty much every other car in the game. Well, that wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed today's episode on the Scintilla. Till next time, keep it in your own damn lane.